Hello and welcome to this lesson on pnpm workspaces and working with multiple projects. It's part of this course on AWS serverless web development. For direct links to watch all the YouTube lessons, visit the course portal at richardbraycourses.co.uk, which also provide links to the source code for every lesson. Hello and welcome back. So a quick recap on the last lesson. We started to create our monorepo by creating this package.json file, and it had a single script item in it, and we could run that by doing a pnpm run and then the name of the script, msg, and it ran this echo current folder command and printed out the present working directory. The real essence of working with a monorepo is to have lots of projects, each in its own folder with its own package.json file. So let's set up something like that. I'll create a UI folder, and then let's assume we're going to have multiple UI projects. So I'll create a folder for the first one called app1, and it's going to have its own package.json file. So package.json, and let's just display them both on the screen simultaneously, and I'll copy the root package.json and just rename it to application1. So the question is, how do we differentiate between running this script and this script? After all, they've got the same name. So I can show you three different ways of doing that. The first way is by far the simplest. We just change directory. So at the moment, if I just rerun pnpm run message, it runs in the local directory. It finds this package.json, finds message and runs it. But if I cd to UI/app1 and then issue the command again, this time it'll find this package.json and it'll report that the current folder is UI/app1. Now that's a bit of a pain, changing directory. So in this terminal, we're still at the root, and pnpm has something built in to do something very similar. So I can say pnpm --dir, which essentially means I would like you to change directory before running this command. So I'll say dir UI app1 and then run message, and it emulates changing directory into UI app1 before running the message script. And so again, it does exactly the same thing. And there's a short version of that. I can say -C, which I guess means change directory. Now, there's a third way of doing this, which instead of selecting the package.json by what folder it's in, we can select it by its name. So I can say pnpm -filter application1 and then run message. And again, it'll find this package.json and it'll run it in its folder. So again, it produces the current folder as UI app1. And there's a short version of this. I can say, instead of -filter, I can say -F, and it does the same thing. So there are three ways of selecting this package.json: by changing directory, by telling pnpm to change directory, or by filtering it by its name. Now this last way, we would generally create a pnpm-workspace file. And this restricts the folders. So if I say packages, the only packages you're allowed to find are the ones in these folders. Then if I issue this command again, there's going to be no problem because UI app1 is a valid folder. But if I remove this from the list, just call it temporarily appxx, and now I run this command, it says no projects match the filters. Obviously, it didn't find any folders called this, so it failed. Let's put this back to app1. So with that, I'm going to tidy things up a little bit. And I'd now like to look at what happens if we have multiple projects, each in its own folder. So let's go and create a new folder called app2 and a package.json there as well. So package.json. And this package.json, I will just copy the application 1 and change it to application 2. Okay, so now we have 3 package.jsons, each with a script called MSG, and I'm going to look at how we can run multiple scripts simultaneously by issuing a single command. And the way we do that is we use the recursive flag. So I can say pnpm --recursive run message. And we can see at the moment it's only found this one, and that's because the workspace file is only permitting one folder. But if I add app2 to this and now run it again, you'll see that it's found 2 of these. It's found the app1 and app2 folders. Now there's a couple of things we can do to tidy this up. The first is we can just use the short version of this, -r, which is the same. And the other thing we can do is we can use a wildcard in the pnpm-workspace file. So instead of app1 and app2, we can literally just say, get rid of this line and turn this into a wildcard, which means any subfolder of the UI folder. And we'll find that that works just as well. And again, it finds app1 and app2. Now you may have noticed it doesn't seem to have found the root script here, and there is a way of including that one as well. And the way we do that is by using a filter with a wildcard. So I can say pnpm -filter with a wildcard of star run message. And this time it finds all 3, the root as well as the 2 app projects. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to do was show you how to avoid typing all these very long commands. So again, let's have a little tidy up. And here's our root package.json. And by way of example, let's start by looking at the pnpm -dir UI app1 run message command. So if you remember, this is going to change directory into UI app1 and then run the message script and print this out. Now, rather than typing this out, what we can do is add a new script item into the root. I can say message app1, something like this, and say, I'd like you to execute this command. And now all I have to do is say pnpm run message app1, and it'll run this for me. Now there are 2 grey lines here, and I'd really like to eliminate these. After all I really want to see is this line here. So we're actually running pnpm here, and we're running pnpm here, and each of them is generating a grey line. So to shut them down, I'll put --silent here, and I'll also put --silent here. And we'll see that works, but our typing load is going up a bit. So there's a couple of things. First of all, we would generally use the short version, -s, and -s here. That's a little bit more readable, but we can do better than this. If you remember, I set up an alias in the last lesson, and I said that prun will do pnpm --silent run. So if you look here, pnpm -silent run message app1, I can shorten this to simply prun message app1. And now we're really getting somewhere. We've got the nice silence command, and we're only typing a very minimal number of characters. And this is how I generally set things up. So let me show you. The recursive command can also be included. I can say message apps pnpm -r run message, and I can run that run message apps, and I can get these 2 printed out with minimal of typing. And I can use the filter, of course, as well. So I can say message all, and that would be pnpm-f star, and then run message. And that would include all three. So I can now say prun message all, and we've got all three printed out. So that's everything I wanted to show you. It's quite a lot to take in, but if you look in the course repo, you'll find complete transcript of everything I've covered, as well as the content of the package.json files. Okay, so I'll bring this to a close here, and in the next lesson we'll look at working with libraries in a monorepo.